Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We are going to start with a quick little video and then we will rock and roll. We got a bunch of people here today. I think you'll enjoy it. Here we go.
Live from the world headquarters of RT America in our nation's capital, this is the news with Rick Sanchez.
The real estate market. We're hearing about bubbles, and more bubbles. Who better than Jason Hartman to tackle this issue? There he is. Good-looking guy. We'll be right back with him and more. Joining us now is one of the most prolific real estate investors with years of experience in this field. Jason Hartman from jasonhartman.com is where you can find him. Joins us now to talk about this. This is a classic argument, Jason. I mean, should the government leave well enough alone and let the market make the determination? Or should they get in there and say, no, sorry, you're not allowed to collect rents? And what's the effect on the poor guy who wants to collect rent because that's what he lives off of?
Yeah, it's a great question, Rick. I don't think the government should get involved. I'm a believer in the market, and I think the market can work things out. Sometimes it's slow, it's not perfect, but I think it's better than government intervention. However, we have what we have. Now, the CDC moratorium, the National Apartment Association is suing over that one, and we have these in different places. But remember, all real estate is local, and some of the jurisdictions vary quite a bit from others. So in these landlord-unfriendly markets, the left-wing type of environments like New York City, where Trinity just reported from, that's going to be a tough slog there, in addition to all of the other challenges New York City is facing. In many parts of the country, this is kind of a non-problem. A lot of people are talking about it, but it just doesn't seem to really be something that's ending up as a problem for very many landlords at all.
Last time you and I spoke, we talked about the fact that people were actually going out there and buying more houses, while at the same time people were leaving big cities. So we've got this map that I want to put up, and I want to share it with our audience, and then I want you to react to it. This is about the bubble possibilities, right? This is where the bubbles might burst and who has the highest chances of having a bubble burst. Chicago, interestingly enough, very low, -0.66. Vancouver, 137. This is North America. Toronto, the highest at 196. LA, 1.16. And then New York is only at 0.56. Explain to our viewers what this means and why Chicago is so low and Toronto so high.
Right. Rick, Chicago is actually a very low-priced, what I'll call trophy city. I know Chicago is not without its problems, believe me, and the state of Illinois has its problems. But as far as a city that is sort of a world-class city, if you will, if someone's visiting from Europe and they're visiting the U.S. back when people used to travel, you remember, they'll go to L.A., San Francisco, New York, and what's on the list next? It's probably Chicago. And Chicago is a very inexpensive city. All of those other cities are very expensive. So that's the reason it gets some slack on that.
So the more expensive you are, the more likely you are that you're going to have a bubble then, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Housing overall, when you look at median price housing, it's actually cheaper on an inflation-adjusted monthly payment perspective because the interest rates are low, and we've had some inflation since 2006. A house today is about $650 a month cheaper than it was in 2006.
That's amazing. That is amazing the way that thing is working right now. Thanks so much, Jason. Thanks so much, as usual, for joining us and sharing the information with you. JasonHartman.com. Thanks.
Jason's approach to real estate is unique in the sense that it's secure. It's safe. Jason's one of the few real estate gurus, per se, that I know that focuses on building wealth in booming economic times and also in recessions. And I think Jason's the absolute best at building profits over the long term.
All right. So, welcome everybody. Good morning to all. Let me fix the screen here. There we are. We've got so many people here. This is fun. Hey, Evan, what did you think of that segment, that little talk on Chicago we just had with RT America, Rick Sanchez? Did you catch that? What I was saying?
Yeah, that it's a world-class city that is that's sort of undervalued, or at least the prices are cheap, and that's kind of it makes sense. As I think I said once before, like half of Chicago is like New York, and the other half is like Indianapolis. It's like got that mix of these two markets, and it's because of that, there are pockets that are actually good for our approach. Um, so the problem with Illinois right now is just the taxes keep going up and people are fleeing. So there are a lot of issues. We have some of the same problems that the northeastern states and the western states have, but some of the good qualities of our Indianapolis kind of market.
Right. But if you want to be in a sort of a quote unquote world class city, and I know all real estate is local, of course, and everything comes down to neighborhoods, not even zip codes. Even zip codes are too big. There isn't another inexpensive world class city in America. It's not San Francisco, it's not Seattle, it's not San Diego, it's not LA, it's not New York, it's not Miami. Like, you can just go down the list even through more of them, and all of those have high expense and or high taxes, big government. It's the Chicago is in a category of one in that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's got some of the great. I mean, it's a Midwestern city, so there's still some of that. They call flyover country.
Hillary Clinton calls it flyover company with her ridiculous, insulting, demeaning slam against the deplorables.
Jason, Adam, that's been a phrase for 100 years since planes were invented. Let's be honest.
So the Wright brothers called it flyover country too?
Probably.
It's got that famous name, Second City, because it really came of age when New York was the first city, and then all these other cities grew around it. But I mean, I love it here. Aside from the taxes, I mean, you can actually park downtown, whereas you can't in like New York City. So there are a lot of wonderful qualities, and it is a world-class city. I mean, there's no question. The opera, the culture, the universities, there's a lot of things that make it outstanding.
Yeah, and of course, folks, you probably realize I asked Evan that question because he is in Chicago and everybody else is not in Chicago. So just wanted to get that perspective. But
Chicago reminds me of Houston in a lot of ways.
Yeah, what? Tell us about that.
Just because Houston has the same things that Evan was talking about. I mean, it doesn't have the like big name pizzazz, but it's a reason. At least it was a reasonable price to live. You've got your like major sports teams, you've got your major operas, symphonies, the big name companies come through from the traveling Broadway teams, and so it sounds a lot like Chicago. Chicago just has a little bit more of the history and a couple more fancy things in it, but sometimes we're able to get into Houston, and so it's a potentially good place, but high property taxes, just like Chicago.
Well, actually, I don't know. Are they higher in Texas? I mean,
wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, Texas that's the one bad thing about Texas. Everything
else is pretty good. I don't think so. I think Chicago is much higher than Houston.
Really? Yeah, I don't know. I haven't checked that lately, but
it's so neighborhood dependent. It's so, I mean, yeah.
True. Depending on the neighborhoods. Yeah, because some different some different cities and counties have their own taxes. I know, I own in Houston and there's a school tax, an additional school tax. So, it's just all relative.
Well, and property taxes are going up even in northern Indiana now too. And so those commuters that are renting in Indiana and commute to Chicago, they're getting an increase. Nashville got an increase in property taxes just recently. So we might see more of that too.
Well, yeah. And you know what, Carrie, that's an interesting point that you make. Like we've talked about over many years on the podcast and so forth, that so many of these municipalities are just struggling to survive. And so the trend is going to be high pressure to raise taxes everywhere, but especially on the places people are fleeing from. So it's like they're getting, a triple whammy. as people flee from Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, Seattle, et cetera. They're losing their tax base in a time when costs of operating those cities have increased dramatically. And I mean, it's just a really complex compounding problem. It really is. But anyway, hey, we jumped into the Chicago conversation. So first of all, good morning, everybody. Lisa, you're not saying much.
And happy birthday,
Oh,
Jason.
Good job, Jason's mom.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you, Sarah. Did one of your kids make that, or did you make it?
I made it.
Oh,
That
okay.
handwriting was way too neat.
My kids are asleep.
Oh, okay. Got it.
True, it's early there. It's early where you are.
Yeah.
Sarah made it a homeschool work project for him this week.
There you go. Yeah. Everybody's a homeschooler nowadays, aren't they, Adam?
Yeah. Well, I don't know, Sarah, your kids went back, didn't they? Or at least one of them?
One of them did. My daughter re-enrolled herself to private school.
Oh, I know that was so
Pick up the phone.
funny. Yeah, your daughter decided she wasn't into this homeschooling stuff, so she enrolled herself.
She's a social butterfly. She's got to spread her wings.
That's funny. Well, good stuff. Well, hey, let's dive into a couple of your questions and talking points, everybody. So first of all, Adam says, how do you invest when there's no inventory?
You forgot an important part of that. I said invest when there's no
Adam,
inventory.
say that again?
I said you forgot the quotation marks around invest, because technically what I'm saying in that, and what I've been doing with some people, is you're not necessarily deploying your money right now, just because it can be difficult to find properties in the price range that some people want, like around 100 to 120,000 or less. That's just rough to invest in right now. But we are sometimes getting properties in that range. And unfortunately, with the pace of inventory, now is not the time to see a property and say, I want to find out more about that property. So what I've been doing, and what I think several other investment counselors have been doing, is we use this time as investing in education. And so we go and we have conversations with the market specialists in the towns that will have properties in that price range. So Little Rock, Memphis, Northern Indiana, potentially. And you get yourself comfortable with the provider. You get yourself comfortable with what they are offering, and you know what their rehabs do. And so you maybe say, I don't feel comfortable with provider X, but I do with Y. And then when LMS Y comes up with a property, if you like the numbers, you're already comfortable with them. And you say, give me a contract, and you don't miss out on the opportunity, because properties are going, within 12 to 24 hours.
Yeah. So in other words, you need to make your decision on your criteria before you have a property, instead of sort of evaluating the property and say, oh, this one, looks good or bad or whatever, right? You need to get your, sort of decide in advance that I will buy this model house, this model investment property, if it becomes available, right?
Yeah. Commandment number 1 is kind of the most useful commandment right now to me, is education right now is so key, just because of the speed.
And that commandment, just so everybody knows, is thou shalt become educated. Thou shalt become educated. Good stuff. Yeah. Good point, Adam. Any other comments on that from any of the other team members?
You want to be really good at reading the pro forma, because
Sarah, can you go closer to your microphone? The echo's pretty bad.
How's this?
Much better.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, you want to get really good at reading the pro forma. When we upload properties to our website, our clients get to see them in the same format. I think you went over that format last week. And the better you are at reading that pro forma, the faster you can make decisions, right? Because you know what your criteria is. You get the pro forma. Okay, now you just have to cross-check and make sure all those numbers are correct. Cross-checking the rents, cross-checking the property taxes, getting your loan assumptions in there, and then you can make an educated decision. And then, just being able to pull the trigger, and then that buys you a little bit of time to do your due diligence, have your inspection done, get your appraisals and everything, and go through that process. And just making sure you have the right verbiage in your contracts to let you out of the deal if for some reason, you get a bad inspection or a low appraisal.
Yeah, I call those the weasel clauses, definitely. So have a couple of weasel clauses. Those are just contingencies to bail you out with bad inspections and so forth. By the way, Naresh, I see that you're here, but your video is not on, so I have a feeling you're working on technical stuff. Okay. So we will add Naresh to the stream. Okay, there he is. Hey, Naresh, welcome. So let's go ahead and grab another one of those.
Well, Jason, I want to make a point on that. When Sarah said about your due diligence, I had a client the other week who we were looking over the original purchase agreement to sign, and they had avenue instead of street. So little details like that, make sure you do up front. Even you're signing on the right address that you're going to be purchasing, because all of those little it was an error on their end. Of course, they didn't mean to put avenue instead of street, but some of those details, make sure those fine points that you recognize ahead of time.
Who made the error, Carrie? You mean the seller?
The LMS did. The seller
local market specialist did?
Yep.
Okay, and so they made that, they put the wrong information on the contract, is what you're saying?
Right. It was like whatever 1, 2, 3 something. They did avenue instead of street.
It's good you caught that.
And,
Right.
Okay, but my question is, what happened with that? By the time they got the contract redone, did the client lose the property? Did they sell it to someone else out from under them, or what do you mean?
No. They still got the property. We were just reviewing it in that 24 hours and saying, hey, resend us the DocuSign. You have the wrong street on there. So everything was fine. It was just, if we went to caught that ahead of time, I mean, could they have sold it to someone else? Probably, because they had the wrong street.
Yeah. By the way, looking at all of you here, do you know what, folks, viewers, listeners, you've probably got close to 100 years of experience here on this screen. I know I've got the most. So, and I'm doing the math in my and there's a lot of experience here. So this is great advice. So thanks for adding that. Carrie, I'll tell you an interesting story. One time when I was in traditional real estate, I had this one, what you call a farm area, Northwood Horizons in Irvine, California. And I had so many listings in this tract of homes all at once that I remember one agent came to me and made an offer on one of my listings. We sat down, presented the offer to the seller, and afterwards, she walks out with me and says, you know what? I think this is the wrong house. I think my client wanted the other one. And I had two of the same models, and they were, on the same street, but different addresses, obviously. And so the client ended up buying the right house, fortunately, but that can happen. You got to be careful, folks. So that's, little minor details like that really do matter. So good stuff. Okay, let me get to some of these others. Okay, so Naresh asked, isn't it a lot of work to manage 5 properties at once if this is not my full-time job? And that's an interesting one. I think a big part of that is just being organized and using software. Super important to have a system of software. But what other comments do you all have on that? Just one more thing before you jump in. One of the things people need to understand is look, there is a, number one, don't have too many markets. 3 to 5 markets, because the ease or difficulty of management comes with having more markets, right? 3 to 5, you can remember in your head what you've kind of got going on. So I think that's a good number. But also, having systems and understanding that if you're going to buy like 1 or 2 investment properties, you're just going to have a couple of properties. But if you're going to take this on like a professional investor, if you will, and you plan to get a dozen properties or 2 or 3 or 4 dozen properties like some of our clients, you got to understand you're starting a business. You need an extra filing cabinet. You need software. You need to think about how you're going to be organized like a business, right? And you're basically a professional investor, so just understand that going in. But who was talking a moment ago? Was that Evan or
It was
Adam?
Naresh's question, so I'm going to assume it was Naresh.
No, well, I know it was Naresh's question, but I maybe he needs answers from the whole group for his clients.
I think
'cause
software.
I was just gonna say there are two different sides of it, and I know Jason and many of the listeners have heard Jason talking about self-management. But me personally, I own 8 properties, and I don't self-manage. I use the property managers that we recommend through our network, and it works out for me just fine. For other people, they've had bad experiences with property managers, and there are a bunch of podcast episodes on how you can self-manage. I think Lisa self-manages. I think Adam self-manages. They can talk a little bit more about that, but I love my property managers, and they make my life a lot easier when it comes to management, dealing with tenants, leasing, even taxes, because they're keeping track of the financials, and I can just download the reports, send it to my accountant. So it is, to answer the question, it's not a full-time job to manage more than 5 properties if you allocate your time properly and resources.
And here's the interesting thing. So Naresh he actually said he loves his managers. That's a rare thing. Glad to hear it, Naresh.
I like my managers.
I have 2 that I like now.
Now, I hope this isn't just like the typical new romance that you only like them a lot in the beginning, and then after a while they wear on you. but no, you've been going a while. I mean, these property managers are a few years old, right?
Yeah. Well, like you said, you have your ups and downs. It's not a fruitful relationship 100% of the time. But overall, if you look at how much you compare the downs to the ups, it's like, okay, it's okay. To me, it's better than spending more time self-managing.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it takes a while. I mean, unfortunately, like Adam, right? You just switched over in Memphis, and you found a good property manager, and so sometimes you might bounce from 1 to 2. You don't want that, but you might end up laying the jackpot on that.
Yeah, I would say, looking at the time that you were talking about, let's say I have 3 markets, so let's just go with 3 markets right now. I would say from the time that I spend downloading the financials for the month, looking those over, maybe emailing the property manager if there were any issues, and hearing back from them, maybe even making a phone call, whatever those things are, and talking with them on the phone, I'm spending maybe 30 minutes up, potentially an hour a month per market. So, I mean, realistically, it's not something that you should be spending a ton of time on. I mean, it's something, if you're spending more than an hour a month on the phone with them consistently, or on the emails with them, something's wrong. Something's really wrong if you're doing that.
Yeah, that's good. And Lisa took her self-management on pretty early in her investing game, and I think she really took the bull by the horns. I got to tell you, the property, I'm going to convert more of my stuff to self-management. I got to get a little more organized myself. I feel like I spend time running the business and doing for clients, but not myself. It's shoemaker, no shoes concept. But I think the self-management is easier, actually. Now it depends on your property manager, depends on the property, depends on the tenant. There are dynamic things here. But Lisa, how has it been for you since you've started self-managing?
A lot easier. I think I spend.
And Lisa, can you come closer to your microphone?
I think I spend self-management has become a lot easier than having a property manager for me. I think I spend maybe 15 minutes a month just doing my bookkeeping, a property tracker. And when I have problems with so I still have a property manager, and then I self-manage in a different market. And when I have problems with my property manager, it's always been faster for me to just solve it myself. Like find the vendor, whoever it needs to be, that vendor, schedule it with the tenant. Then I get the pictures, I get all the communication I need, I get the before and after. It's just a lot easier to do it myself than it is to rely on somebody else's account, because you never even get to talk to the person who's doing the work when you have a property manager, right? You just get some sort of receipt that said, I don't know, unclog the kitchen sink, and then they charge you $250 for that, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. There's a lot of ripoffs out there, and you know, one of the other things, and might sound really minor and silly, but I just love that on my self-managed, I get my rent, I see it come in. I don't wait 15 or 20 days to find out whether or not the rent came in or not. I'm just a huge fan of self-management. You know, I don't like having that intermediary party in the middle, in the way. But I think everybody's heard me say that enough. You know, I'm a big believer, and I'm going to convert more and more of my properties to self-management. I'll give you another example. One of my properties in Florida got a little bit of hurricane damage. You know, and you know the property manager who's been really good. I've had them for, I don't know, 15 years. They're quite good. And you know, I've always been happy with them. They're like emailing me, and it's like I have to decipher their emails. The communication is just bad. And you know, I said, you know, what are you actually asking me to do here? Are you asking me to file an insurance claim? What are you asking me for? I don't understand what you want me to do. And then they're like, well, read our newsletter. And I'm like, I don't want to read your stupid newsletter. I just want you to tell me what you want. You know, I don't have an hour to read your newsletter. And it was pretty long, by the way. So yeah, I'm a big fan of self-management, but anyway, you know, enough said there probably. We got to get to some listener comments too, but let's go. Oh, Naresh, it looks like you've got, well, I can't do that right now. So, because you posted the other question is, how come no properties are available on your website? Well, yeah. Obviously there's a huge lack of inventory, and look, folks, you got to be working with one of our team members to find property now. It's very hard to just go to the website and find it because the properties move too quickly. Also, subscribe to the Property Stream podcast. And Adam, maybe you want to comment on that, on both of those things first?
Yeah, well, first off, it's called Property Cast.
Oh, Property Cast, sorry. I'm thinking live stream. Yeah.
So if you go and search for Property Stream, you won't find anything.
Yeah.
But the Property Cast is just a podcast feed that sends you the PDFs of the properties. Unfortunately, right now it's not very active, just because, as we mentioned, there hasn't been a ton of inventory. But whenever it does come available, you'll get it pretty quick after they're uploaded. So
they'll be sold when you get them.
Yeah, it's still not a substitute for working with us because, as I mentioned, they go quickly. And so, I mean, honestly, it's probably 12 hours behind. Well, actually, by the time they're posted and we get the notification and they're uploaded, still probably 12 to 18 hours. And so a lot of them are gone in that time anyway.
But you can use that, like Adam said earlier, use what you see, and what Sarah said, those numbers. Okay, you know you're going to get this amount of return in Alabama compared to Florida. And then when you're ready to pull the trigger, you know what to expect.
Yeah, you can look at each market and see, okay, you know, Memphis is getting this many coming in on a regular basis. Alabama's getting this many on a regular basis. These are the numbers I should expect in those markets. You know, what are they looking like? So even if you're not planning to buy tomorrow, you can at least get a feel for what each market is bringing and generating.
This might be a great example, folks. So Naresh, in our spreadsheet here, Naresh posts
for what each market is bringing. Somebody needs to mute their YouTube.
I don't know if you can hear me or not, but Naresh posted this and wanted to talk about this property, I think, on the live stream today. And it's Naresh, was this not sold, not in escrow when you shared that link?
So the reason why I shared that link, it was in escrow, but there are several more of exact or very, very similar properties, same price, same square footage, that are going to be coming out within the next couple of weeks, according to the seller. So that's why I included this. It's just they're not ready to upload it to our system yet.
Okay, got it. So anyway, this one boasts a projected overall return on investment of 33%. It's I'll just round up, $235,000, subject to qualifying at 25% down. It'll take you about, $68,000 to buy it. And the projected cash on cash return is 8% annually. So even if you're waiting for the bubble to pop, if you think that's going to happen, and by the way, I just got back from a week-long conference in Tampa, and I actually did that RT interview you saw in the intro video from my hotel room there. And I gave two presentations there, and one of them was on, are we in a bubble? And I think I'm going to take that and turn it into a webinar, because I really did a deep analysis into the true cost of real estate today versus back to 1976, back to 1984, and back to 2006, which many consider to be the last peak of the market. And property is actually cheaper today. That'll amaze most people, but you adjust for interest rates and inflation, and wow, it's pretty amazing. It really is. But okay, any other comments on that before we move on?
Yeah, just back to the inventory. I know Adam said, okay, if you're not looking to buy now and get familiar with the markets, and that's all great advice. But if you are looking to invest now, you need to opt into our system and get an investment counselor. If you already have one, we're sending out hot sheets almost every week, sometimes daily if we get a surprise property. You need to get on the phone and call your investment counselor, because we're talking to these sellers every single day. We're hunting down inventory, literally. We had a record-breaking September, more inventory than we ever had, and moved more inventory than we ever have. And you know what? Last week, we sold all the properties. Next week, we're going to be on the phone getting more deals for you guys. So just opt in to the website. You'll get assigned an investment counselor, and we will fight to get you deals. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you. So
yeah. And by the way, I'll just echo that for you, Sarah. COVID has caused what I talked about back in February, something called supply-demand shock. Okay, which is a really unusual economic phenomenon. And I'm experiencing supply-demand shock now. My car lease is up next month, and I can't buy a darn car. I mean, not in the color and the combination I want, right? Which is not exactly weird. I'm not looking for a funky color car or anything. I'm just looking for a very standard color and a fully loaded car. And there's like nothing for sale. It's unbelievable. We have huge shortages. The factories were closed, and I had to place an order for a 2021 model, and they don't even know when I'll have it. It might be February.
You should have a rental car for a while, because the rental cars are plentiful.
Yeah. Well, Hertz went bankrupt, and I did look at their pre-owned rental cars, but I didn't find anything I liked. What were you saying, Adam?
Oh, I was saying it sounds like our Florida construction. You can buy it now and close on it whenever it's done.
Exactly, whenever it's done. Here's another property, by the way. This is one that Evan posted, and this is in Talladega, Alabama. So Talladega Nights, right? Remember the movie? Evan, this one also says in escrow. Was this one available when you shared this link in our spreadsheet?
No, it wasn't. We sold all of those,
okay.
But we've got more coming at the end of October, hopefully. That's been one of our best markets. And the reason, Alabama, the job growth, there's so many jobs moving to that part of Alabama. And we've got a great builder there, and they have a corporate lease. So our purchasers are, making money on day one. So it fulfills, I think it's commandment number 5. Your property should make sense the day you buy it. And so I've had, my clients who purchased there have just been thrilled. But we're getting more. So this is another reason, kind of what Sarah just said, is that if you have your criteria, you need to be working with us and you need to be ready to go because these homes go quickly. I had a client who was ready to purchase one, and he just wanted to take the weekend to talk about it with his wife, and he lost it. I was, we're going to get another for him, but there is a sense of urgency, and we're not making this up. This is real. This is the real deal.
And one thing that's going to bum you out, folks, if you take the weekend to talk about it, et cetera, like that example, the next one may well be $3,000 more. Okay, so just know that that's coming.
This Talladega one, if you'd bought it 3 or 4 months ago, was $10,000 cheaper.
Okay, so now it's $129,900. So this is at the very much lower end of the range, and this is new construction. I mean, that's almost unheard of. Like you can't touch this. What's that song? Can't touch this.
You're showing your age on your birthday.
Yeah. But Adam pointed out that
that's an 80s song, right, Adam?
What?
Is that an 80s song? I think it is.
Yeah, that was the late 80s, I think, maybe early 90s at most.
All right, so this one, let's just talk about this one for a second. Again, not available, but the next one will be similar. It might be a little more expensive.
Jason, there's 2 of these coming online. They'll be done October 15th.
Okay.
So October 15th. So they're available for contract. There's 2 of these coming on.
My client's got one of them. I call it now.
Tell them not to take the weekend.
Said that.
You're fighting over them right here on the air, folks. Right here. Okay, let me just tell the viewers about this property for a second. Okay, so $129,900, subject to qualifying at 25% down. It'll take about $38,000 to buy it. And projected rent is $995 per month, so not quite the 1%, but not bad. And overall cash-on-cash return projected at 7% annually. Overall return on investment projected at 33% annually. And what I always say is if it even goes half as well as projected, okay, if it only goes half as well as projected, you're going to make what? 16.5% annually, right? Not bad, right? So keep that in mind. Okay, let's move on.
Hey, Jason, you need to take some questions.
Comments and questions we got to get to too. Sorry, Adam, go ahead.
I was saying you need to take some questions. There's a bunch of them lining up.
Let's Adam, do you want to? You're really good at this. Do you want to start popping some of those off here?
Let me go to the top and see who's first. Let's see.
Adam has media training, so he's quite good at being like a co-host.
Jeff Jones says that he wants to do a cash-out refi in Memphis and buy a short-term rental in on the Big Island of Hawaii. Is it a bubble in Hawaii?
Oh, yeah, don't do Hawaii. And by the way, Hawaii
plus side low property taxes.
Yeah, well, Hawaii has some additional weird problems with COVID. Hawaii is like super isolated now. And, anytime there's an island, I'll give you an example. At our event almost 2 years ago now, Profits in Paradise in Hawaii, it was the only Hawaii event we've ever done. I couldn't bring my dog. My dog's been to 18 countries and I didn't, Hawaii is like really difficult. And now with COVID, Hawaii is just super strict. And Hawaii is too expensive. It's too liberal. It's too tenant friendly. And it's too expensive. But I want to just shoot this over to Evan to talk about his short-term rental. He is killing it with this one. He just told me this morning. Now, this is in St. Augustine, Florida, so you're completely at the other end of the country. But Evan, wow, you said to me this morning, you sent me a Voxer message saying that your short-term rental is like a life-changing deal. It's so good.
Wow.
I think it is. Of course, I've only owned it for, almost a year. Just about short-term rental for Hawaii too. I have a client who has a short-term rental in Maui, and he has just been killed by COVID. I mean, his the whole summer was gone. You're so much at the mercy. The HOA fees are crazy, so we definitely wouldn't recommend that. But on the other hand, as Jason said, the St. Augustine's great. Airbnb. So what happened was, the reason it's so great is I was able to refinance down to a 2.875%, which I can't believe how good that is. But there's actually been a huge surge in these kind of short-term rentals that are near big cities where people can just go and work from there. Like I've got someone who's staying there a month. You know, they go, they work, they've got good Wi-Fi. It's near a generally big city with Jacksonville, but it's really been a life-changing investment because it closed before COVID, so the value has risen, and it's just in a great location. So it's a more conservative kind of Airbnb. Now, Jason sort of warned us that these like big fancy Airbnbs, in Hawaii or in Miami, those you pay so much money for them, and there's so many regulations. The kind of short-term rentals we have are under $500,000. They're relatively linear markets, or they're near linear markets, and so they really make sense. And I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, so let me just comment on that for a moment. Airbnb has mostly, I think for most Airbnb hosts, it's been a disaster with COVID. Okay, I can tell you, I've talked to a lot of Airbnb short-term rental people that have just been really hurt. They've been hit hard. So I feel very badly for them, but they were doing great for a long time. But again, taking a vacation is not a necessity. Okay, if things get really bad, vacation is optional, right? So that's one thing. But the distinction, I think, is that a short-term rental property that's not too terribly expensive, that's in a low-density environment, that offers a drivable vacation. It's got to be drivable, not requiring getting on an airplane. And that's another problem with Hawaii for most people aren't in Hawaii. And if you're in Hawaii in one place, you're probably not likely to vacation in another place in Hawaii as much, right? But if you can drive to it and you can obtain a truly different experience than where you live, like St. Augustine, our only short-term rental market we've ever done, provides a legitimately very different experience from Atlanta and Chicago, or sorry, not Chicago, Atlanta and Orlando. Okay, which is where a lot of those people come from. They just drive from Atlanta or Orlando to St. Augustine. And that's why I think that market has just done so well. So good stuff. Okay, Adam, you want to get another question in?
Yeah, Tyler Lawson says, how will your investing strategies change depending on who wins the presidency? I don't think this one is going to be as big a deal as people are making it out to be. I know there's the concern about Joe Biden eliminating the 1031 tax deferred exchange, but that's a big, long road for him to try to take. It's a great talking point if he wants to make it, but getting all of Congress to sign off on it and getting it through all the lobbyists and all of the, it would take a whole lot to get it done, and it would be a process that you would see coming down the road a long way.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point that you make, Adam. By the way, that wasn't all from the viewer. That was your commentary.
Yeah, the question was from the viewer.
Yeah, make sure you distinguish that. Okay, but look at income property and real estate have a giant lobby. They have the largest trade organization in the world, the National Association of Realtors, almost 1.5 million members, I think, or maybe 1.3, something like that. Huge lobbying organization, and many others that it's always been this kind of sacred cow. Okay, so don't worry too terribly much about them attacking real estate. They'll try, it is what it is. But any other thoughts, folks, on changing strategy based on the presidential election? Adam went specifically to 1031 exchange, but there's way more to it than that.
I have a question for you, Jason, based on that. So I recently I am refinancing one of my properties, and I've talked to various lenders within that company that's doing the refinance, and almost every single one of them has told me we need to do the refinance before the election. And I said, why? And they said, because there's a very high possibility that interest rates are going to go up if Joe Biden wins. I don't know why. I thought maybe you could comment on that. I didn't necessarily agree with them, but maybe you have some thoughts.
Yeah, I look at, I hope Biden does not win. I'll put it that way. But, it's pretty weird what's going on. I mean, we got a president and first lady with COVID and an election in 30 days. So this is things could go all kinds of directions right now. It's really a strange time. But no one wants things to be bad on their watch, right? And one of the sort of easy things to do, well, two of them are to keep the pressure on the Fed to keep interest rates low, number one, and number two, to just spend money and have stimulus. And, Democrats spend more than Republicans, but they're almost the same now. I mean, yeah, like look at Adam, the Democrat, or one Democrat here, probably. I don't know.
They don't spend. I mean, you look at the tax cut the Republicans did.
Yeah.
That was spending 1.5 trillion.
I listen. That's they're pretty much the same nowadays. Okay.
Okay, but Jason, what about the stock market if Biden is elected?
The stock market will not be good if Biden's elected because
that's what I think is
good point. The general thinking is that Democrats are bad for business, Republicans are good for business, and when you saw the Trump election, the stock market went crazy, and so did the real estate market and the whole economy.
We never know. The stock market likes predictability, and so if they think Biden's going, I mean, remember when Trump, when it was indicated he was going to win the election, the market plunged temporarily 1,000 points, and then it came back up in the next couple of days. So I think right now the market may be adjusting if they think Biden's going to win. I mean, I don't know. I think in the long term it's bad for the stock market, but I don't know about the short term.
All right.
Well, going back to the whole taxes and real estate as this applies to real estate, just look at the properties that we have available on our website. Alabama, Florida, Tennessee. We don't have any properties in California or New York or these ultra regulated states for a reason, because it's very difficult to invest in real estate in ultra left-wing democratic, as Jason calls, socialist states.
Yep.
So if someone like Kamala Harris, who's currently senator of California, becomes president, because that's it's not about Biden, it's probably about Kamala Harris 3 years down the line.
Well, no, it's not 3 years. It's 2 months, Naresh.
Oh, okay.
Kamala Harris will be president 2 months after Biden's in office, as Biden has declared. I saw a funny thing today. This is obviously anti-Biden. It said Joe Biden for president, but they crossed out the P and it was resident of a nursing home. I thought that was pretty good.
So I had to look it up because y'all were talking about it.
Yeah.
Historically, a Democrat has been a president. The S&P has averaged 14.9% per year. When a Republican is a president, it's 9.1%.
Okay,
so,
I'm not doubting the stock market. I'm just talking about real estate, and we're getting a lot of comments here saying, "Good point, Raish. Good point." Exactly. The point that I'm making is it's very difficult.
We'll see if we get someone to say, "Good point, Adam."
Good point, Raish.
The main point is it's very difficult to do real estate investing in democratic states. Very, very difficult. And just look at our website. So,
the insiders win in the democratic state. Where like in Chicago, I mean, you can make a lot of money, but it's the insiders, the people who are connected to the politicians. I'm sure the same is true in LA. It's the insiders.
Yeah, the crony capitalist crooks. Yeah, no question. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Adam, you want to keep going with questions and comments?
Yeah,
and make sure you read comments too, okay?
Yeah,
just make sure you get everybody.
Digital Life's about to make your head explode. Digital Life says, should I continue to be a cash buyer? I've had no debt since 1980. To think I'd have a mortgage is somewhat foreign. What are your thoughts, cash or finance? Jason, would you like to explode?
Don't do that, Digital Life. Refinance your properties, pull that equity out. It puts you in a safer position. It's counterintuitive. I get it, but look, just listen to the podcast, the Creating Wealth podcast. Watch the other videos on the YouTube channel. There is very rarely a reason to have a lot of equity in a property. Income, as I always say, income property is the best asset class, but it's not a very good bank. You're using it as a bank, okay? And you'll be much safer, better off, have more tax benefits, have lower risk counterintuitively if you leverage your properties. And with money this cheap, go get some free money. Go get some free money. Seriously. Okay. And so
I've got to comment on that. So I recommend people look up Alex Rodriguez real estate. Alex Rodriguez made, I think, over $500 million through endorsements and salary playing in Major League Baseball. And he's a real estate investor. This is a guy who has a lot of cash, obviously. And he does an interview about leverage and how he finances all of his real estate properties, not just single family, but he does multifamily, probably a little bit of commercial. But
Resh, I'm gonna get on your case for not putting a link to that video in our content group.
I think you posted it many years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh well, okay, never mind.
I'll post it in the comments right here.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
But to Digital Life, first off, congratulations for having a lot of cash on hand and not, just doing well. But there are so many tax benefits. There's so many just benefits in general to using leverage that we talk about on our website, jasonhartman.com, on the podcast. I'm going to go ahead and post. I'm going to find that link, and you guys can check it out in the comment section.
Good stuff. Okay. Anybody else on that one?
Well, I would say even if you look at refinancing and it comes out to be where you can buy 2 or 3 properties and your cash flow ends up the same, you've already diversified your risk. You've diversified the risk of if something's vacant, you're still making money from your other 2 properties or 1 property or whatever. And then you've also got your mortgage write-offs, your interest write-offs on your taxes. So the benefits of refinancing and getting more properties far outweigh the risk of a mortgage payment and that you're going to have. The
mortgage payment's not a risk. It lowers your risk to have a mortgage payment. That's the counterintuitive irony of the whole thing.
And
but
all
anyway,
the
we
benefits.
don't have time to go into that. So just it's on the podcast on the YouTube channel. Go ahead.
Refi till you die.
Yeah, refi till you die.
Even forbearance. Did anyone who owned? I mean, we didn't recommend forbearance for people, but it's if you needed it. If you had all your properties paid for in cash? Forbearance didn't benefit you at all. But if you had big mortgages, you could have, you could delay payments for a year now under the stimulus act. Jason, you talked about that all the benefits always go to the people who have more leverage.
Yeah.
So take advantage of that.
Yeah, it's not necessarily fair, folks, but it's the way the world works. So get in the leverage position. Adam, we got a ton of stuff to get through.
So Toby came through and said and agreed with you. Toby's obviously been listening for a while. He responded with definitely leverage finance. It's free money at these rates. Dan S. wants to know what are some system or software that you use to manage homes out of state.
Adam, are you reading these in order, by the way? Because we're
I'm at 10:25 a.m. Jason. We're
Okay, great. Okay, go ahead. So what's the question?
Dan wants to know what are the systems and softwares that you use to manage homes out of state.
Property Tracker, propertytracker.com is excellent, and I like it so much I bought the company. So it's kind of like the Hair Club for Men commercial. I like it so much I bought the company. They show the guy who's bald and then he's got hair. And that's the kind of company I need to buy because it's definitely getting thin. So Property Tracker, and then we did for our Empowered Investor Inner Circle group. And you can talk to any of our team members about joining that. We did a special webinar just for them the week before last, I guess it was now, on another software that we really, really like. So, talk to them about it. You can watch that video replay, and we might do a webinar with that one as well. Okay, Adam.
And then Dan also asked, how do you remote show the houses to the tenants? And this goes back to the hybrid model that Jason's talked about a lot. And you can hire a la carte people or either a real estate agent or a property management company. They'll show your property. They'll find you a tenant. You still have to pay them your lease up fee, but you don't have to do the work of actually getting a tenant.
Adam, where are you reading the comments? Are you reading them off our internal software in the studio or off?
I'm reading them off in the chat here on our internal one, and Dan asked this at 10:26 a.m.
Are you deleting them after you're reading them?
Nope.
Okay,
I can't do that.
I don't have them back to 10:26.
Oh well, I scrolled.
Yeah, they only go back to 11:01 for me.
That's because you're in Florida.
Different time zone.
Sorry. So 30 minutes ago, Dan asked, "How do you remote show the houses to tenants?"
Okay. All right.
But Jason, your mom fully self-manages. How does she do it?
Well, she's an extreme do-it-yourselfer, by the way. I wouldn't follow that example. She literally leases the properties up herself. But we recommend a hybrid self-management approach where you have a real estate agent or a property manager working on an a la carte basis, not fully managing your property, but you have them do the tenant turn, meaning they do the walkthrough with the old tenant, they send you pictures, they get the old tenant out, they find a new tenant, they check their credit, they do the screening, they do the walkthrough, they help you coordinate any repairs or improvements that need to be done in between. And you know what you're going to find when you're self-managing? You're going to find your tenants treat your properties better, almost always. And if they don't, they will give up part of their security deposit and understand why they did it. Okay. Whereas with property managers, they just won't even take any part of the security deposit, it seems like a lot of the times, because they're trying to serve two masters, you know? Anyway, that's just another point on self-management. But use a real estate agent or a property manager on an a la carte basis to handle the tenant turn. So you never go to the property. Okay. And I've done that for many years. It's worked. It works great.
And there's several other options out there. So just reach out to your investment counselor. We'll send you the links, whether you want to compare rents or look at the market a different way, compare numbers. If you join the Real Estate Empowered Investor Network, investors compare prices of plumbers in Memphis to this, to that. So reach out to us and we'll connect you with more information.
Good stuff. Okay.
I have a comment to make. Digital Life, talking about their question on debt. They said, "All right, so long, Dave Ramsey." And I think, Jason, you've talked quite a bit about Dave Ramsey on your show. I just want to say that Dave Ramsey's program, when he talks about debt, he's not specific. He's not talking about real estate debt or mortgage debt, which is very different.
Actually, Naresh, he doesn't like any debt. Okay. He doesn't even like real estate debt, believe it or not. He's crazy on that, okay? He's right about, like, for Dave Ramsey's market, he's good for getting people out of stupid consumer debt and all that stuff. He's just wrong about investing. He's not, you need, look at, if you don't have credit card debt and you don't have like stupid debt and you've got your act together, you need to graduate from Dave Ramsey school, okay? He's fine for the market he serves. But yeah, Naresh, I thought like you in the beginning, but he doesn't like any debt, even on real estate. So he's just clueless about that. Dave Ramsey is.
Jason, my daughter, my daughter's she's a senior in high school, and I just had to order a Dave Ramsey book for her financial class. And we were in the car yesterday, and she was telling me about it, and she loves the class. And I'm like, that's great. Like, this is so great that they're teaching you this. So great that they're teaching you this at, age 17. I said, but when you get into your young 20s, I'll teach you about real estate investing.
Exactly.
So it's a great, I think Dave Ramsey is a great foundation for people to have to just manage their money, but not for the long-term, buy and hold investment game. And I think Dave Ramsey said he got burned in real estate years ago. So.
Yeah, he did. I had his number 2 guy on the show years ago, and he just didn't know what he was talking about. Honestly, it's
he wasn't following your plan.
Yeah, no, he doesn't get it. By the way, I wanted to say thank you to everybody for all the nice birthday wishes and comments. Adam, I don't know if you've gotten to those yet. There's nice testimonials in there. So
yeah. So Robert said, "Happy birthday, Jason. You are a great person and a tremendous blessing to all of us who listen to your expert advice."
Thank you. Okay.
Ultimate Bargain says, "I focus on cash return and debt coverage ratio." Debt coverage ratio isn't a number we go into a ton with the network, but it's very, very important if you're looking at getting a loan. You've got lenders that won't lend on investment properties where the number, I believe the one I've seen the most is about 1.2. I forget the exact formula that it takes. I have it written down somewhere, but
I'll speak on that for a second. So the debt coverage ratio, I like to call it the how likely it is I'll ever get into trouble with that property ratio. Okay. I always have these like simple, funny names for stuff. And on the debt coverage ratio, what Adam's saying is the lower it is, the worse it is, the more likely it is you'll get into trouble. So
1 is break even.
Yeah, one is break even. One, and he's saying that lenders don't want to see that debt coverage ratio fall below 1.2. Now, just to give you a comparison, on the property in Florida that we just talked about, we showed it on the screen a few minutes ago. The debt coverage ratio on that one is 1.52. So that's very good. The likelihood of you getting into trouble there is very unlikely. The other property in Talladega, the debt coverage ratio was 1.49. Also very good. So there you go. Yeah.
If
Too
your
bad they're
credit
both sold, but we'll have others.
Yeah, if your credit and income are good enough to qualify for the loan, that house will get approved every day of the week, twice on Sunday, if it's there.
Twice on Sunday, is that like a saying? That's funny.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a Southern saying.
Ah, I heard that one.
Us-
Twice
us
on Sunday,
Hicks.
y'all. Yeah. Okay, Adam, y'all keep reading. We've got a lot to cover.
Art and Paper says, "Happy birthday, Jason. You look good. What is your birthday wish?"
My birthday wish is gosh,
Inventory?
I don't know which one should I pick. Well, I'd like to find a wife and have some kids. That's the one thing I really just haven't done in my life. So, oh well, not happening very quickly for me, that's for sure. But
Kids ain't cheap. Yeah, we got. You want to have
neither are wives. I hear.
No.
Yeah.
Don't get there yet. No, not yet.
What was that one, Carrie?
I said don't get an au pair just yet.
Yeah, folks, Evan, here's how rich our team members are. Evan has an au pair, and Carrie just got an au pair too.
I didn't get one. He's helping me get one.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
I'm
Rich.
You know,
I tell you funny. Let me tell you a funny story about that. By the way, this is funny. So, these clients and friends of mine from many years ago. I will not mention the name because this person is rather famous. In business famous, and not a celebrity, but a business celebrity, if you will. And they were, getting older, and they were like this professional power couple. And they used to live next to me in Orange County, and I remember I sold that house for them and sold a bunch of their others, their investment properties. And they thought, maybe we better have a kid. We're getting older. And they started, and they thought, we're both like professional power couple. We're going to need a nanny, okay, or an au pair. And so they started looking at, looking at catalogs of au pairs and nannies. And they started looking at all, they'd have like a picture and they'd have their profile and their information and all this stuff. And, you pick one out of here. And so the wife says, these nannies and au pairs are just too good looking. I think we ought to skip this and just get a boat. So she didn't want to have some hot young nanny around her husband.
I was telling Carrie this. We talk a lot about inflation, and people say there's no inflation. We first got an au pair 5 or 6 years ago. The initial fee was like $3,500. Now the initial fee is like $9,000.
That's like a one-time fee or per month? What do you mean?
One-time fee, and then you pay But I think part of it is just inflation, and some of it's just like the immigration laws and how things have changed. But they're really, I shared an article with the group. The Wall Street Journal had an article that there is a lot of inflation in things that matter.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Things that we're buying, and this is just another proof of that I've seen.
Well, I can tell you, my son was born in January pre-virus, and from January to where we are in October, the cost of a nanny has gone from here in Florida anywhere from $10 to $15 an hour to $20 to $25 an hour. And that's, I think it's clearly a supply issue. A lot of nannies are saying, I don't want to come to some stranger's house and take care of people.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, no, there's definitely inflation. Okay, Adam.
Yeah, Tyler Lawson says, "I can't wait to buy a property. I'm so close to paying off my business loan. Hopefully I'll be buying a couple properties a year to start and then bump it up as cash flow increases." So congratulations, Tyler. Digital Life says, "I've heard property values can't stay high with immigration opening up. True or false?" I don't see how immigration opening up and having more people enter the market for properties would hurt property values. But
yeah, folks, you
I
got to
would say
realize
false.
in the next 30 years, if you get a 30-year mortgage today, okay, your tenant is going to pay it off because that's who pays your mortgage in 2050, okay, 3 decades from now. And there will be at least 80 million more people in the United States by the time that mortgage ends.
And there will be zero more land.
Yeah, good point, Adam. Zero more land. Yes. In fact, if Al Gore's right, there's going to be a lot less land because the oceans are going to rise, and we're going to have coastal property in Phoenix. Gary, you're going to be on the beach soon.
But Obama was supposed to stop the oceans from rising.
That's true. I know.
Yeah, that song, "Oceanfront Property," and might become true.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
Wait, there's an important question here that I just want to read.
But Naresh, don't go out of order though. Let's just go in order, okay?
Digital Life also wants to know thoughts on furnished short-term rentals. I mean, short-term rentals are going to have to be furnished, and we kind of covered the market. So I don't know if anybody else has anything to say on that.
Okay.
Let's see. Brent Cook says Hawaii is busy killing the golden goose tourism. Let's see. Sorry, something just updated and moved down. Brent Cook also said refi till you die.
Brent. Hi, Brent.
Yeah. Colin Moran says happy birthday, Jason. Thanks to you and Sarah and all the others for all that you do.
Hi, Con.
Thanks, Con.
Does someone want to set up their sister with Jason?
Yeah, that was the important.
that was the important.
Who was going to be Naresh to that question?
Who's that?
And 20 minutes ago, Bill Brown said, "Good point, Naresh."
For Instagram.
Let's see. We've got All Me said, "Adam, what about investing in surrounds of Austin? Are there possibilities?" We actually, Lisa and I had a conversation with the potential provider in Texas, including the surrounding Austin areas, San Antonio, that kind of stuff. When it comes to investing in Austin at the moment, you're gonna, no, but you're gonna have to go down to like Kyle and Buda, which is about 20 or 30 minutes outside from downtown Austin. Without traffic, it's 20 to 30 minutes.
We were selling in Kyle years ago.
Or you're gonna have to go east out to Del Valley or farther, and even those properties are getting expensive. You can't go north. North has gotten crazy. You can't go west. There's nothing really there, and what is there is getting really expensive. You can't even go southwest. There used to be Dripping Springs, and that was reasonable. It's now as expensive as Austin almost. It's up around like $400,000 for an entry point house. And then after that, you're out in the hill country, so there's nothing there. So there's just fewer and fewer places that actually make sense around here. So the providers we're looking at are outside of San Antonio, a little bit farther south, but you're kind of somewhat out of the Austin market by the time you get where you're going to be able to build.
Okay, keep going.
Con Moran said Naresh exactly, so we're to the point where Naresh was bragging. Brent Cook, refi till you die. SCSU 300 says, put me down for one of those Talladega or Florida new builds. I don't know who that is, but you have an investment counselor then.
Yeah, hope maybe one of your counselors is here. We're not sure. But if not, be sure to go to jasonhartman.com or pandemicinvesting.com. By the way, we should talk about our event coming up, folks. We have an event coming up. An online event. Pandemic Investing Conference online. Our first one coming up in just like 13 days, I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and basically your picture will be here on this screen. It's the same concept, except for all of our investors are here together and you get to actually ask your questions. It's so fun.
So
well,
sure
and the
join
point
us.
of that, at Meet the Masters, the conference less than 2 months ago, those Talladega properties, those investors were the ones that got the 10,000 last price. They were 119,000 and now they're 129. So sign up, register. There might be more exclusive properties at this event.
Good point.
Good stuff. So there's the link, pandemicinvesting.com. There's a free book there, but you can also register for the event. Go ahead.
Robert Hernandez says Democrats are horrible for small business owners and entrepreneurs with all the regulations. Ken McElroy just said around 50% of small businesses closed down for good.
I'm surprised you were willing to read that question, Adam. Okay, I'm glad you were.
Kim M says, what do you guys think about modular houses?
Okay, so I'll just speak on that for a second. I think they're great, but they have a stigma, unfortunately. And I don't think they should have a stigma. I think it's an unfair stigma, but it is the way it is. That's the perception. People don't like them. And hopefully society will overcome that, because I think it's an unfair stigma. Yeah, go ahead.
Sarah, do I recall you telling me one time that getting a loan on modular housing can be really hard?
Yeah.
Or am I making that up?
Banks have the same stigma.
It was the other one.
The prefab? Or no? I don't remember.
I can't think of the name. I saw it somewhere in the comments. Someone made a
Manufactured
comment about
houses?
it. Manufactured houses, yeah.
3D
exactly.
printed, you mean?
I just had a client try and buy one years ago, and the lender wouldn't finance it.
Yeah. Okay.
So it would
And be sure
have
to
to be a cash deal.
come closer to your mic, Sarah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
we
I had a
heard you.
client try and buy one years ago, but they couldn't get financing.
Okay.
So.
Adam, go ahead.
Brent Cook says Ramsey must have amazing asset protection. I'm assuming that's because he has so much cash actually in the deals.
Yeah.
Let's see. Tyler Lawson says, I used to be a fan of Dave Ramsey, then I found Jason Hartman.
Yay! Good idea. Good idea.
Uh-oh. And it just updated again because I guess I got too far behind.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I like
Digital
Kim's
Life.
comment. She says, happy birthday, my favorite person. Thank you so much for all the information you've always shared with your followers. Okay, go ahead, Adam. You can pick up now.
Digital Life says, should I stay or should I go? Paid $275K cash in 2018. Can list for $419K. Seems like I should sell.
You should sell. Yeah, where I don't know where that is, but that's too expensive for rental property. You can buy 4 rental properties, 3 or 4. Sell that. Yeah, good idea. 1031 exchange. If it's a personal residence, you don't need a 1031, but 1031 exchange it if it's a rental property before Joe Biden takes the 1031 away. We talked about that, and contact one of our team members and get a whole rental portfolio for that. That's great.
Yeah. So Art and Paper needs to go to jasonhartman.com/ask because he's saying, can I set Jason up with my sister?
Yeah.
I know Art. I know Art on paper. I'll hook you guys up.
Okay. Quite literally. Send me a Facebook or Instagram link, will you? Okay.
We have, what are your thoughts on Mexico?
Oh, no. No, too much political instability, no civil rights, no good financing, not a transparent market. None of these foreign markets really seem to work that well. They sound attractive at first, but in reality, they just don't work that well. So, yeah.
It's a nice
and Adam, we could be putting the questions on the screen. I just forgot about that. We haven't been doing that, so here we can, do that.
So I will say one of the things that I learned about Mexico reading the John Burns's book is I hadn't realized that the economy has gotten good enough that we're actually seeing an outflow of Mexicans from the United States to Mexico because they came over here in order to be able to get a job and send money home. But we've been at a net loss for the last about 10 to 15 years. So we're actually losing people to Mexico every year.
That actually,
everybody's leaving California.
Yeah, that kind of surprises me, Adam. I bet there's a little more to that stat, but fine. I get that you're right about Mexico's economy getting better, but a lot of that is largely because of NAFTA. And with the Trump administration, that's not going to be quite as good for them as it has been. So.
Well, it actually saw, one of the articles I read said the new agreement didn't work out quite as expected because it doesn't require that things be built in America, but it requires that workers get paid an average of $15 an hour. And so then what they discovered was companies didn't spend the millions and millions of dollars it takes to move it to the United States. They just upped the salary of the Mexican workers, and now everybody in Mexico wants to work at their factories because they make more working there than anywhere else. So.
Okay, got it. Yeah, interesting. But regardless of that, of any of that, and we've look at folks. A lot of times, these questions really deserve a much longer answer, and that's why you got to listen to the podcast, the Creating Wealth Show, because we go in depth on issues there, and we've talked a lot about foreign investment, not just Mexico, any foreign country. The United States is a very special real estate market for numerous reasons. Okay, so leave it at that. Listen to the podcast, The Creating Wealth Show. Adam, go ahead.
Tyler Lawson wants to know when you will have live events again.
We do. We have an event in 13 days. Pandemicinvesting.com.
They said live, like
Oh,
in
live.
person.
I don't know.
Whenever-
I don't know.
When restrictions get lifted.
Yeah, maybe. But I got to tell you something. I like these virtual events. And at this live conference I just came from in Tampa, a lot of those people host their own seminars, and they were all talking about how they now love virtual events because they're so much less expensive and so much easier to run. And, hotel inflation has gone through the roof, $120 a gallon for 12 cups of coffee. I mean, it's absurd what hotels charge. But that is a lesson, by the way, folks. The person who controls the real estate controls the whole game. Okay. And that's what a hotel does. So, we'll certainly have live events again, but, who knows? It's not going to be soon. So join us virtually on Zoom in 13 days. Go to pandemicinvesting.com. All right, Adam.
And Brent's obviously been listening to you on the podcast and your live streams because he said, "You mean the pandemic?"
A pandemic, exactly. Yeah.
And now we're all caught up. Digital Life says, "Thank you from every fiber within." And Brent says Brent misses the Irvine events.
Yeah, we'll get back there again, Brent. Don't worry, it'll happen eventually. Okay, so let's go back to some of your questions, and then we'll kind of wrap it up here in a minute.
And if I missed your comment, post it again because I don't want to scroll all the way up and see what I did and didn't post.
I think you skipped this one from Derek Snurl. He was asking, are any of you having issues keeping up with the local market rental housing regulations? I don't know if we addressed that.
I didn't see that one. Sorry.
Yeah, Adam, I don't think you got all of them. It's a little hard the way that software works that we're using to get, it's sort of jumpy the way it handles the questions and comments. But go ahead, Lisa. So, local where? Did they say where or?
No,
not?
I thought for me, it was more like what regulations? Because the states that we invest in don't have regulations like that for the most part. Chicago might be different. I don't know, Sarah, Evan, do you want to speak to that?
I think Derek is from the LA area, so that's what he's probably comparing to. So
I mean, there's certain places that require you have like an annual inspection by the county, things like that, but not in any of our markets that I know of right now.
Chicago is tough on like inspections. St. Louis, Missouri is tough on inspections. And what I mean by that is, in addition to like when you have a tenant turnover, for example, there'll be a requirement to have a city inspection, and then you're at the mercy of when they can put you on their schedule. And so, if you're trying to turn your property quickly so you can rent it again, and that inspector isn't available for 2 weeks, that's 2 weeks of rent coming out of your pocket in just wait time. So I don't know if that really answers the question. Maybe you can clarify further in the comments, but we do keep tabs on that. We try and stick with landlord friendly markets, but there are a few markets that do have some, regulations like that around city inspections.
Yeah, most of our markets are very landlord friendly. Comparatively, all of them are more landlord friendly than the places a lot of people invest, like California and New York or whatever. It's a spectrum, obviously. Okay, I just put up on the screen, by the way, pandemicinvesting.com. This is where you can go and you get the free book, okay, the Pandemic Investing book, and you can also register for our upcoming conference, our Pandemic Investing Conference. You can see this cool little educational video that's 6 minutes long, 5 minutes and 49 seconds long, and join us October 17th, virtual event. We're going to discuss a lot of great stuff there, go into detail about the migration patterns, and we're also teaching, per Sarah's request, some of my creating wealth concepts there, but applied to the current environment in which we find ourselves. So go to pandemicinvesting.com, get your ticket for this virtual event, really easy to attend, and that's October 17th. So it's coming up in 13 days, or actually 12 days And where did that timer go? It was on the other page anyway.
And Jason, some of our most successful clients, they keep attending these. They used to be in-person conferences, now they're virtual. But even so many of our clients that attended our most recent Meet the Masters conference, it just really helped them to get going and to grow their, whether they were new or investing with us for many years. A lot of the people that were investing with us for many years executed that refi till you die strategy, and the new investors, it really just helped them to get started. So stay plugged into the content, the events. You never know who you're going to meet, who you're going to hear just a little bit of information that really helps you grow in your income property investing business. So the conferences they're awesome. Even the online conferences, it's just great. So stay plugged in, because that's where you're going to learn and pick up more information.
Good advice, Sarah. You gotta, like Ray Kroc, the founder of the McDonald's franchise system. Now everybody knows who he is because of the movie The Founder, which was a really good movie, by the way. And he discovered that the whole thing with McDonald's was a real estate play, by the way. I just want to point that out, okay? That it wasn't the McDonald's thing. It was the real estate that made it all work to become one of the most successful companies in the world. But one of his favorite sayings, his favorite quotes, really applies to what Sarah was just saying and about coming to the conference, and that quote is, as long as you're green, you're growing. As soon as you're ripe, you begin to rot. So as long as you're green, you're growing. Okay. And that's the value of ongoing education. All right.
So Jeff Jones asks if we have any comments on roof stock. And for that, personally, I kind of give that the same caveat as Zillow. You don't know what you're walking into. With our properties, you're getting either completely renovated properties or completely new. We have had one or two come up that haven't been completely renovated. They're kind of as-is properties, but we divulge that off the bat. When it comes to Roofstock and Zillow, those places, they're just properties up there that you're going to have to assume you're going to get more maintenance.
Yeah, these are the platforms. And sorry, Sarah, I'll just finish mine. I actually tried to be their customer a couple of times. Now, not to buy a property, but to sell a property. Well, I did get a little nervous on the 1031 exchange I was doing, and we didn't have any inventory, so I actually looked there. And but I knew our clients wouldn't buy some of my more highly appreciated properties that I want to do 1031 exchanges on. And it was just really hard to be a customer, so I just didn't do it. These are platforms, like Zillow. It's a good comparison to say Zillow. Yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, so I'm on their email list, and I look at their listings all the time. After all, I'm an investor. If I can get a good deal somewhere else.
Later.
I have never purchased a property out of our network. I'll tell you that, okay. But except for my primary residence. But there was this listing, and it was in Atlanta, in the same city that I already owned a property that I bought through the network, and it looked great. So I started researching, and I'm like, this looks too good to be true. And the first thing I noticed was that the rent was off by like a couple $100. So I filled out the form, and they called me, and I talked to them and told them I was interested, because I was, and it wasn't even their listing, that particular property. And what I learned is that sometimes they do control the inventory, but sometimes they're just pulling deals off the MLS. And that particular deal, they pulled out the MLS, and I learned that it wasn't vetted. The rent was way off. So I took those exact numbers, I put them in our format, our property tracker format, to see what the return would be, and it didn't compare once you start picking apart the numbers. So I'm sure that they have some one-off deals that work, but I think what Jason was saying is a lot of people list their appreciated properties that don't work anymore, and that's how they unload their deals. And I don't know that many of the ones that I have seen work make sense from day one, I guess.
Yeah.
So that
you can also go to eBay and buy properties too. Good luck, folks.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, let's move on, Adam. You got another one?
DM asks, what happens when everyone figures out the government is serious about rent skipping? and everybody takes them up on it. New regs are coming soon before the end of 2020. Everyone wants to live for free. We've seen,
look,
Jason and I, you and I discussed it in one of the live streams, and the skipping rent is possible, but you have to actually document COVID-related hardships. It's not something you can just say, I don't want to pay my rent, at least in the markets we're in. I don't know about California, but you have to document COVID-related issues. And the rent is still technically due.
Yeah.
It just gets bumped back.
Which to comment on what Adam's saying is, number one, like I said on that RT interview, this rent moratorium issue has been like a non-issue for people in our network. I was very fearful that this would be a big nightmare, a big problem, a disaster, and it just hasn't been at all. Like it's once you stop listening to the news media and you talk to our investors, it's like a non-issue. Nobody's talking about this in our network, okay? But I will tell you that remember, your option, and this is why you should have your properties leveraged, is you can always pass that hot potato to your lender, okay? If this happens, if it becomes an issue where rent collection does become an issue, you just go into forbearance. And that forbearance program in the future may look different than it does today. It might be a better program, but you just pass the hot potato to the lender. That's your backdoor option.
Trickle up economics. Right?
Trickle up, yeah, that's what I call it. Yeah, trickle. Instead of trickle down economics like the Reagan era idea, this is trickle up. In other words, if I'm not getting my rent, I just trickle it right up to the lender and say, lender, I can't pay you, sorry. And then they go to their bondholders and the government for a bailout. So that's what happens.
But don't do that if you're trying to get more loans, because the lenders don't want to give you loans if you're in forbearance. They're right into that.
Don't do it because it's not a problem. Okay. Right. If it becomes a problem and it really becomes a catastrophe, that's your option. Okay. It's always your option to stop paying the mortgage. So just know that that option is there. And this is why you shouldn't have free and clear properties. It's yet another reason, because, who are you going to go to then? Like they say in Ghostbusters, who are you going to call? Nobody. It's going to be your problem. Yeah.
And especially forbearance, when the market first tanked, was kind of a stigma that could be attached to you. But these days with the lenders, it's pretty much as soon as you're out of forbearance at the moment. From what one of the lenders I talked with said, is as soon as you're out of forbearance, you're pretty much eligible for loan the next day. So it got all that stigma disappeared.
And that's the way forbearance is today.
Right.
It's not necessarily going to be that way in a year or 6 months. We don't know what will happen. Okay.
Eviction laws are changing constantly. Everything's changing. Just stay up to code, or stay up to the news. Reach out to us, and we'll help you find out what the regulations are that day.
Carrie, did you just say the victim laws?
Eviction.
Oh, eviction laws. Okay, I like that, the victim laws, because everybody acts like a victim in today's world,
Well, if the renter is the victim of COVID and you're the victim of non-payment, then your lender becomes the victim of your forbearance.
And then,
but listen,
the mortgage-backed securities become the victim of your non-payment, and then the government becomes the victim of it because they do a bailout, and then inflation becomes the answer in the long term. But go ahead, Sarah.
But the majority of the people, they want to pay their rent. They want to do the right thing. The people that aren't paying are having legitimate hardships. And as investors, as real estate investors, being in the position that we're in, having the knowledge that we have, I feel it's our duty to kind of coach these tenants, right? So like I did have 2 tenants fall behind at the beginning of the COVID. One of them I put on a payment plan. They got caught up. They're up to date. The other one, they couldn't make the payment for 2 months. And I said to the property manager, let's let them break the lease. Let's help them downsize. You guys can find them another property to rent, because this was kind of a high-end property. And, the rent was really expensive. And I said, they don't want a court system. They're already having their challenges. Let's coach them into a more affordable rental, and then I'll work out a plan for them to pay me back. And we did that. And that tenant, they came back, they paid me in full. I actually rented the property within 30 days. I got a $50 rent increase, and that person downsized because they were down to one income. And that's life. If you can't afford your rent, sometimes you have to make adjustments. And I think it's our duty as investors to first try and coach them a little bit. And maybe it's the property manager that's going to coach them, but it's the property managers don't think this way. They just want to fill out the form and file the eviction. And sometimes there's a better way. So don't be afraid to think through this stuff and, have a little compassion if you can.
Yeah. No, that's a great point, Sarah. Hopefully we're all here to make a difference in the world, right? And most tenants are good people. They're not a problem. They're tenants just get portrayed wrongly by a lot of landlords, and who had one bad experience out of 100, right? They had maybe they had a few properties, and over the years they had 100 tenants, and they always got one or two bad ones. I've had some bad ones too, right? But by and large they're good. And remember something, that the money is still due. Like Adam said earlier, you can literally, even if your tenant is under a moratorium and you can't evict, you can still take them to court and get a judgment against them. You just can't get a judgment for eviction. You can still get a money judgment to say, hey, look, they owe you the rent, and it's on record. And when that judgment is recorded, it's going to be very difficult for that person to buy a car, buy a house, rent another house. So, just work with them. And you won't have to do that. That'll be the very rare time that you have to do something like that. But just so you know, landlords still have rights, even though they don't, or may not at the time, have the right to actual eviction. Okay? So just understand that. Okay? Go ahead. Adam, is there another one?
Yep. Digital Life says, this is the highlight of my year. Mr. Hartman making me money. Robert Helm made me money in 2016. Told me to wait a year, then sell Washington State property. I made 100,000 more by waiting. Love you, real estate gurus. And Lorna Fash, she had said I skipped her question, so she reposted it. Thank you very much, Lorna. Wishing Jason happy birthday, good health, long life, and prosperity. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. So
Thank you, Lorna.
And DM said, follow up. How are the credit agencies handling this? Meaning, are people taking hits on credit personally for forbearance and or rent if they take this deal?
Supposedly forbearance, they're not supposed to get a ding for a forbearance program. That's the actual rule as I understand it. But not all lenders have been reporting correctly. And folks, it really is important for you to become aware of the way credit works in our country and to manage your credit. And we did a webinar on a funding program. And one of the side benefits, I talked to a lot of our clients because we did that webinar several months ago originally, and a lot of people signed up for it. And now I've had some nice feedback on it. And I also, at this conference I was just at in Tampa, I was with the founder of that company and talked to him for a while. And one of the side benefits, other than getting this funding, this business credit, is that people have really become much more knowledgeable about how to manage their credit score. And it really is something that deserves some thinking and some attention. It's not complicated. In the beginning, it seems complicated and foreign, but once you understand it a little bit, it's really super easy. Anyway, good stuff. Go ahead.
So Tyler wants to know, have you guys noticed that your tenants would rather work directly with you rather than the property manager?
Absolutely. Yes. Good point. I have. Any other thoughts?
Lisa,
you're the one who self-manages.
Oh, yeah, myself. Oh, yeah, I am new to myself. I actually had my tenant tell me that she'd rather work with me than a property manager. So I think that answers that.
All right. Digital Life, you'll love this, Jason. Do you invest in commercial properties?
Well, commercial, like I've said so many times, is a really bad word because I don't know what it means. Commercial is not a complete concept. commercial could mean industrial properties, retail properties, office properties, apartment complexes, mobile home parks, whatever. I like housing. That's what I invest in. I have a mobile home park. I have a small apartment building now with some clients of ours, and I used to have a couple of big apartment complexes with a different client of ours. So I like those commercial properties, but they're all housing. Notice the common thread, housing, right? So, but my favorite by far is the good old-fashioned single-family home. It's the best one. When you have an apartment complex or a mobile home park, that is not an investment. That is a business. I mean, it is complex and problematic. And I got to tell you something. Even though that last apartment complex I sold last year that I talked about extensively on the podcast, it was 139 units. And I bought that with a client of ours, our client Steve. Sarah knows him quite well. And we sold that last year. And I was so relieved to be done with that property. It was just a frickin' pain. And by the way, we made good money. I think we bought that for like 2.9 million or I think we bought it for like 2.2 and put like 600,000 into it or something and sold it for $5 million, exactly 5 million even. So we made money. It was good. But we spent over $200,000 on legal fees. Just with lawyers. And don't quote me on the legal bill. I think it was around 200 grand in and out of that deal and during the deal, because we had low income government subsidized housing, not just Section 8, but a local city program too. And like the red tape, you just can't imagine. And what makes me really nervous about those deals is you get into a deal where you're signing a lot of things that you just can't possibly understand. And that just makes me super nervous. And yes, I do it like other people. You know, when you get, oh, here's a 400-page legal document. Like I'm supposed to understand this and agree to it. And like you're agreeing to all these policies of this local rent subsidy program. I just don't want to be in that world, folks. That's just I don't know. It's just too stressful for me. Give me a portfolio of good old fashioned single family homes. I like them a lot better. Okay. But single family homes, the idea is you can scale more with these bigger assets, but I don't know. I've seen our investors do it very nicely with single family homes, and that's where I feel safe. Okay. So it's my
the other benefit of single family is, if you just need to like liquidate a portion of your portfolio, you need to free up some capital. You can do that with a deal or two or three, but if you're in this big apartment deal, it's more difficult, to get out of it if you want to sell.
Absolutely. Yeah. So housing is the answer no matter what. It's housing. Single family being my favorite in the housing asset class.
So Julian Assange says he would love to be evicted.
Julian Assange. That's a fake name, obviously, yeah. Right?
Who knows? You never know.
Yeah, you never know. It might be the real one. Yeah.
Digital.
He got evicted from the Ecuadorian embassy, unfortunately. Yeah. Julian Assange. History may look back on him, and some view it now as he was a real hero. So nobody ever says WikiLeaks is fake news. Isn't that interesting? Yeah.
Jason, we have another question from my client Keith.
Okay.
Go. Want me to read it?
Yep.
Okay. I have properties with mortgages with a rate in the high to mid fives. Does it make sense to refi to 4% and cash out some equity to deploy into other properties? It's a math problem, but curious.
Probably.
I'll break it down for you, Keith. Probably.
Go ahead. So you want to break it down for everybody?
Well, when I say break it down, I'll send you a sheet to complete, and we'll run the numbers like in real time. But
got it.
Because it depends on how much equity you have in those properties. If you have a good amount of equity, it will absolutely make sense because you'll be able to pull out all that cash, for get a super cheap rate, and then you can deploy, and apply the refi till you die strategy. But it also depends on, I know you purchased them recently through us. It depends how long you've had the properties because you're going to have the cost of, the refinance. So if you can roll in your closing costs and get a lower monthly payment or a lower interest rate, it probably will make sense.
Yeah.
The rates our clients are getting rates in the low threes. I did 2 refinances at 3.3875.
Wait a sec. Evan's going to tell you something. Evan?
No, yeah, I same thing happened to me as happened to Sarah. In fact, Sarah mentioned it on one of our internal conversations that got me thinking about it, and it ends up saving me a ton of money. Yeah, it's if you can wrap in the closing costs, and prices have gone up. I mean, I don't know when Keith bought, but there's been some appreciation, so you could probably wrap in the closing costs. I was able to, so it's amazing.
And on your short-term rental, didn't you just get 2.89%,
Yeah.
Evan?
Wow. Yeah, but that's because it's technically a second home because we use it sometimes. So you get a little bit lower rate.
Yeah, right.
But I've seen for investment properties as low as 3.375. That's the lowest I saw for an investment property. Maybe, and that was like at a certain period of time. I don't know what it is right now, but that was the lowest I saw.
And you want to ask the lender about doing a rate buy down. So it may or may not make sense, but like my deals, I paid a percentage of the loan to get a lower interest rate. But for me, you can calculate the break even time on that. So on my deals, I was going to make that money back in 3 years. My break even was 3 years, and I plan to keep that property for longer than that. So I mean, if you can do the cash out refi and lock in a much lower rate and then keep the money rolling, I mean, your property should be buying properties eventually. My properties are buying properties. It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
Several clients are using
Your
strategy.
portfolio buys you free properties.
Mhm.
That is a beautiful thing.
Yay.
Gary, what were you saying?
Several clients have had that. You just had one of my clients on your show and talking about that and how he just keeps rolling it over and buying new properties with that equity.
It's beautiful. You get free properties. One of the beauties of income property is that you can get all your money back, or a lot of your money back, or even more than all your money back by refinancing, and you still own the asset. But it gets even better than that. You can get your money back, plus you can get a new free asset that the property portfolio buys you by refinancing and using that cash as the down payment on another one. It's, what it's like? I just thought of this. It's like a really great legal pyramid scheme. Bernie Madoff would be proud. Okay. Hey, folks, we've been going an hour and 42 minutes. I got to go to birthday brunch here, but we got one more. I think we should, because our client, Pat Anderson, asked a question. Do you want to do that one, Sarah?
Oh, put that one on the screen. That's awesome. Thank you, Pat.
Oh, that's not a question. Okay. Pull that. Wow. There it is. There's your example, folks. So Pat did it right there. A lot of you met him at our conferences over the years, and that's great. Yeah.
So there's one more I think we should do. It came in about 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
Digital Life wants to know the names and but he wants to know what we do. And he said, forgive me for the newbie question here. So in terms of what we do, we help connect the investor with the right properties. So that's really when you reach out to us and say, hey, if you go to jasonhartman.com, fill out any of the forms, one of us will call you, or preferably you give us your phone number, we can call you, or you give us your email address. We'll contact you and we'll help you figure out a plan for how to build your portfolio. And we have, as we've mentioned numerous times, we have providers that we've partnered with across the country with properties that make sense the day you buy them. And we just help you build up your portfolio that, makes you money. And, as we've talked about the whole time here.
You'll be assigned to
go ahead, Carrie.
Oh, you'll be assigned to an investment counselor. So each one of us here in the Brady Bunch, we're an investment counselor.
the Brady Bunch. Hey, we need 2 more kids to be the Brady Bunch,
Coco, why isn't Coco on here?
Yeah,
Oh, that is important. We need a Coco update.
Yeah. Oh, Coco is she threw up. I woke up this morning and had there was vomit on the floor, so now I'm worried about her again. But she just ate during this live stream, which makes me feel better that she just ate. When an animal's not eating, you get really concerned. But I'm going to take her to the vet today too. Here, so it's another thing. Yeah. But overall, she seems like she's been doing well, so that's good. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, so you'll be assigned to an investment counselor, and we'll work with you to build your portfolio on various aspects. I think Sarah was going to highlight on some of those: financing, finding properties, property management issues, concerns. We're just hands-on involved the whole time to help you build your portfolio.
Good deal. Yep. What
Okay,
else?
so can we wrap it up here?
We got
a couple
one
of
more
birthday wishes.
one
Thank
more
you.
comment from
Yeah,
Giuliano.
there's
You want to pull that one?
I've-
I'm refinancing 4
20
properties, but in one property, P&I went from 1,100 to 820.
Congratulations.
Interest rate went from 5.75 to 3.375. Incredible. Rent increased and my mortgage decreased. Awesome.
Not too shabby.
Congratulations. Yeah, here we'll do. Yeah.
Where's the birthday song?
I don't have one of those.
Do it? Come on.
So I have some other sound effects on this machine, but I have to figure out how to use it. So anyway, but good stuff. Congratulations. That is totally awesome. And we really appreciate you all listening. So folks, we got to wrap it up. Go to pandemicinvesting.com and get your free mini book and register for our upcoming event. Okay. So folks, would you all agree that people should do that? Tell them.
Do it.
Absolutely.
No better time than now.
Yeah, no better time than now. What is that, Sarah?
Can you hear it?
Happy birthday.
Oh. Do you know, thank you. Do you know an interesting thing? You notice you've probably heard this little trivia before, but you notice you never hear Happy Birthday in a movie. It's because that song is copyrighted. And they just won't. I guess they're really difficult to work with, and they won't license the song very well. So
Terrible.
you like never in a movie. It's just kind of think about that. Have you seen a movie where they're singing like "Happy Birthday" to someone?
No. I tell you what, though.
Even in 16 Candles or something, right?
Never even noticed. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Trevor Noah had a story about the Happy Birthday song that's pretty funny that he learned in South Africa growing up. So that's a great Happy Birthday song that he sings. So people should YouTube it.
What is it? Who?
Trevor Noah, the Daily Show host, had a thing about when he grew up in South Africa. His mom taught him a Happy Birthday song that was way more exciting. It was like Happy Birthday, and he said he went to his first birthday party where they sang Happy Birthday, and he's like, let's sing the birthday song, and he started doing his big energetic thing. Everybody looked at him like he was insane.
He thought it was totally boring, huh? Yeah.
So
it's funny.
It's worth YouTubing to listen to him sing the Happy Birthday song.
Good stuff. Well, hey, folks, thanks everybody for joining us, and thank you to the team. And let's wrap it up and just make sure you have gone to where?
Pandemic Investing. Not pandemic, pan.
Yeah.
Pandemicinvesting.com or jasonhartman.com.
Yeah, but specifically for the event, pandemicinvesting.com. And we'll get in touch with you either way, and we look forward to helping you build your investment portfolio. And thank you to the team. Thanks to all of you. Appreciate you joining me.
Thanks.
We'll do this again. That was a lot of fun. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.